The Vegas Strip hit me like a fever dream, all flashing lights and pulsing energy as our plane skidded onto the tarmac. Lila's hand gripped mine, her nails digging in with that giddy excitement she always got when we traveled. "Jake, this is gonna be epic," she said, her voice cutting through the airport's din. 2 years together, and her spark still pulled me like a magnet. At 32, I'm a graphic designer, my remote gigs giving us freedom for weekends like this. Lila, 30, a nurse, works brutal shifts, but lives for these escapes. Our friends Tom and Sarah were already at Caesar's Palace, blowing up our phones with texts about cocktails and slots. We grabbed our bags, the air thick with cigarette smoke and anticipation. Lila's phone buzzed as we hit the escalator. She glanced at it, her smile faltering, and swiped the screen away fast, too fast. "Work?" I asked, casual. "Yeah, just a schedule thing," she said, tucking the phone into her jeans. Her eyes darted to the crowd and I followed her gaze. Nothing but tourists and slot machines. Still, something tightened in my chest. At the hotel, the lobby was a circus. Gold chandeliers, marble floors, and a buzz that screamed money. Tom, lanky and loud, waved us over. "About time, Carter. Shots are waiting." Sarah, his wife, hugged Lila, already tipsy. We checked in, the clerk rattling off pool hours and showtimes. As we headed to the elevators, I caught a guy, tall, dark jacket, maybe 40, leaning against a pillar, staring at us. Not the usual Vegas leer. His eyes locked on Lila, then flicked away when I met his gaze. "You know him?" I asked her, nodding toward him. She frowned, glancing back. "Who? Number?" But her hand tightened on her bag. Our room was all plush carpets and floor-to-ceiling windows, the Strip a neon river below. Lila flopped onto the bed, laughing. "We're not sleeping this weekend, Jake." I grinned, but my mind lingered on that text, that guy. 3 years ago, post-divorce, I got a vasectomy. My ex's affair left me done with kids, done with trust. Lila was on board, no diapers, just us, chasing sunsets. But her quick swipe, that stranger's stare, it stirred something I thought I'd buried. We met Tom and Sarah at the bar, the music loud, glasses clinking. Lila ordered a margarita, her laugh bright but brittle. I watched her, trying to shake the unease. "You good?" I asked, leaning close. She nodded, but her phone buzzed again. She silenced it, her fingers lingering. I sipped my beer, the stranger's face flashing in my mind. Vegas was supposed to be our escape, so why did it feel like a trap? The sun blazed over the Caesar's pool, a sea of bronzed bodies and thumping bass. Lila stretched out on a lounge chair, her red bikini catching every ray. "You're gonna fry," I warned, tossing her sunscreen. She smirked, sipping a margarita. "Relax, Jake, I'm fine." Her skin glistened, but her eyes were heavy, the heat draining her. Tom and Sarah sprawled nearby, dealing cards for a drinking game. "Hit me!" Tom yelled, downing a shot when Sarah won. I laughed, but my gaze kept drifting to Lila. By noon she was on her 3rd drink, no water in sight. "You hydrated?" I asked, nudging a bottle her way. She waved me off, yawning. Sarah noticed, grinning. "Lila, you preggo or just partied too hard?" Lila rolled her eyes. 3 days late, big deal." Tom snorted, looking at me. "Jake, your swimmer's still on strike?" I smirked. "Vasectomy, dude. If she's knocked up, I'm demanding a DNA test." The group roared, but Lila's laugh was sharp, her eyes flicking to her phone. It buzzed, face down on the chair. She didn't touch it. I scanned the pool and my blood chilled. Him again, the guy from the lobby, dark jacket swapped for a black polo, standing by the bar. His sunglasses hid his eyes, but he was angled toward us, motionless in the chaos. "Lila," I said low, "that guy by the bar, seen him before?" She squinted, then shook her head. "Jake, it's Vegas. Everyone's staring." But her voice trembled, just enough to snag my attention. Flashback, my ex, Claire, her late-night texts, her work drinks that smelled like cologne. I found her with her co-worker, the truth gutting me. I swore I'd never be that fool again. Lila wasn't Claire, but her phone, that guy. Doubts crept in like smoke. She'd been cagey lately, staying late at the hospital, saying it was staff shortages. Was it? The afternoon dragged, Lila quieter, her margarita untouched. "You okay?" I asked, touching her arm. She nodded, but her smile didn't reach her eyes. The stranger was gone when I looked again, but his shadow lingered. By dusk we headed to dress for dinner, Lila leaning on me unsteady. I told myself it was the heat, but deep down I wasn't sure. Nobu's dining room glowed with soft lights, the air rich with soy and sake. Our table was a mess of sushi plates, Tom and Sarah arguing over the last roll. Lila sat beside me, picking at her food, her face pale under the makeup. "You sure you're okay?" I whisper. She nodded, forcing a smile. "Just tired." Her hand rested on her water glass, untouched. I kicked myself for not pushing her at the pool. Vegas heat was no joke. Mid-story, Tom's voice booming. Lila's eyes fluttered. "Jake," she mumbled, then slumped, her head lolling against my shoulder. My heart stopped. "Lila!" I caught her, her body limp as chopsticks clattered to the floor. Sarah gasped. Tom yelled for help. A waiter rushed over, then a manager, and soon paramedics swarmed, their radios crackling. "What happened?" one asked, checking her pulse. "She fainted," I stammered, my voice shaking. "Too much sun, maybe." The ambulance ride was a blur, Lila stirring but groggy, an oxygen mask over her face. I held her hand, guilt clawing at me. Why hadn't I made her drink water? At the ER, they wheeled her away, a nurse promising updates. I paced the waiting room, the strip's glow mocking me through the glass. Lila's phone, in my bag, buzzed. I pulled it out, an unknown number, no name. It rang, then stopped. I stared at the screen, my thumb hovering. Claire's lies echoed in my head, but I shoved the phone back. Not now. A nurse passed, muttering about complications to a colleague. I grabbed her arm. "Is that about Lila Carter?" She frowned. "Sorry, sir, I can't say. Doctor's with her." My stomach twisted. Complications? The doctor from earlier appeared, his face calm. "She's stable. Dehydration, likely from sun and alcohol. We're keeping her for tests." I exhaled, but the word tests hung heavy. "Can I see her?" He nodded, leading me to her room. Lila lay under fluorescent lights, IV dripping, eyes closed. I sat watching her breathing until the doctor returned with the bombshell. Pregnant. 5 weeks. The rest was static. Vasectomy, betrayal, that stranger's stare. Suspense clung like damp air. Lila's phone silent but screaming secrets. The hospital room smelled of antiseptic, sharp and cold, cutting through the fog of my panic. Lila lay in the bed, eyes closed, an IV dripping clear fluid into her arm. Her face was pale, but her breathing was steady now, a small mercy after the chaos of her collapse. I sat beside her, my chair creaking under the weight of my thoughts. The Vegas Strip glittered outside the window, its neon glow mocking the sterile quiet. I'd been replaying the night, Lila's laughter at dinner, her sudden slump into my arms, the ambulance's wail. Why hadn't I made her drink water? Guilt gnawed at me, but something else stirred too, a shadow I couldn't name. The doctor, a wiry man with graying hair, entered, his clipboard a shield between us. "Mr. Carter?" His voice was calm, practiced. I stood, my heart thudding. "She's stable," he said. "Dehydration, worsened by sun exposure and alcohol. She'll need fluids overnight, but she should be fine by morning." Relief flooded me, loosening the knot in my chest. "Thank you," I managed, glancing at Lila. Her eyes fluttered, but stayed shut. "There's something else," the doctor said, his tone shifting, like he was stepping onto thin ice. He glanced at his chart, then at me. "Her blood work shows she's approximately 5 weeks pregnant." The room tilted. My mouth went dry, words dissolving. "Pregnant?" I croaked. "That's impossible. My vasectomy, 3 years ago, post-divorce, a clean cut to close that chapter. I'd had checkups, all clear." The doctor raised an eyebrow. "Vasectomies can fail, though it's rare. About 1 in 2,000 after 2 years. We can run further tests if needed." I nodded numbly, my mind racing. 5 weeks. I counted back, our lazy Sunday mornings, Lila's warmth beside me. No way. I flashed to the urologist's office, the cold table, My decision to never risk fatherhood again after my ex-wife's betrayal. Lila had agreed. No kids, just us, chasing sunsets and late nights. Pregnant? It didn't add up. My eyes darted to Lila, still out, her face unreadable. Was she keeping something from me? The doctor left, promising to check in later. I sank into the chair, my pulse a drumbeat. A memory hit. Lila at the airport, her phone buzzing, her quick swipe to dismiss a text. She'd smiled, said it was work, but her fingers had lingered, nervous. And that guy, tall, dark jacket, watching us from the hotel lobby. I'd caught his stare again at the pool, his eyes on Lila. Was he someone she knew? My stomach twisted. A nurse bustled in, adjusting Lila's IV. "She's lucky you were there," she said, then lowered her voice. "Security mentioned a man asking about her room earlier. Didn't leave a name. Probably nothing." My jaw tightened. "What did he look like?" She shrugged. Tall, dark jacket, seemed concerned. The room felt smaller, the walls pressing in. I stared at Lila's phone on the bedside table, its screen dark but alive with secrets. I wanted to grab it, scroll through her messages, but I stopped myself. That wasn't us. Or was it? My ex's face flashed in my mind. Her lies, her late-night calls, the co-worker she swore was just a friend. I shook. Lila wasn't her, but the stranger, the text, the pregnancy, pieces of a puzzle I couldn't solve. Lila stirred, her eyes opening slowly. "Jake?" Her voice was weak, a thread of fear in it. I forced a smile. "Hey, you're okay. Just dehydrated." She nodded, wincing as she shifted. I hesitated, the doctor's words burning in my throat. "Lila, they did blood work. They said you're 5 weeks pregnant." Her eyes widened, a flicker of something, shock, fear, or something else, crossing her face. "Pregnant?" she whispered, touching her stomach. "But your vasectomy." She looked away, her gaze landing on the window, the strip's lights reflecting in her eyes. Was it guilt? Confusion? I couldn't tell. "Yeah," I said, my voice tighter than I meant. "I said I'd need a DNA test, right?" I tried to laugh, echoing our poolside joke, but it came out sharp, a blade. Lila's face crumpled, just for a second, before she met my eyes. "Jake, you don't think—" She trailed off, her hand tightening on the blanket. "I don't know what to think," I admitted, hating the edge in my voice. The stranger's face loomed in my mind, his shadow stretching across the room. Who was he? Why was he here? And why did Lila's reaction feel like a lock I didn't have the key to? The nurse returned, breaking the silence. "Visiting hours are ending soon," I nodded, my eyes on Lila. "We'll talk tomorrow," I said, squeezing her hand. She nodded, but her grip was weak, her eyes distant. As I left, I glanced back, the hospital's fluorescent lights casting her in a stark, unfamiliar glow. Outside, the Vegas night pulsed, but all I felt was the weight of a truth I couldn't trust. Lila was discharged by noon Sunday, her steps slow as we left the hospital. She leaned on me, her face still pale, an IV bandage peeking from her sleeve. "I'm sorry I scared you," she said, her voice soft. I squeezed her shoulder, but the doctor's revelation, 5 weeks pregnant, burned in my mind. My vasectomy. 3 years. Impossible. Back at the hotel, she curled up on the bed, staring at the window at the Strip. I sat across from her, replaying our poolside banter. Sarah's joke, my DNA test line. It had been a jab, but now it felt like a prophecy. "Lila," I started, "about the pregnancy." She met my eyes, hers shadowed. "I didn't cheat, Jake, I swear," but she looked down, her hands twisting the blanket. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. She grabbed it, her fingers swift as she deleted a message. My blood ran cold. "Who's that?" I asked, sharper than I meant. She flinched. "Just work. Nothing important." But her voice was too smooth, rehearsed. "Lila, you've been weird with your phone all weekend." She sighed, setting it down. "I ran into Mark at the casino last night before dinner. He's a nurse, here for a conference. We're catching up." "Mark?" My jaw tightened. Why didn't you mention him? She shrugged. It was quick, no big deal. But her eyes didn't meet mine. Flashback, last year, a fight over my late nights. Lila called me out, her honesty raw, pulling us back from the edge. Now, this felt different. Guarded, slippery. We headed to the hotel lobby, Tom and Sarah waiting. As we passed the glass doors, I saw him, the stranger, dark jacket, across the street, his eyes on us. My heart raced. I stepped outside, but he turned, vanishing into the crowd. "Jake, what's wrong?" Lila asked, frowning. I shook my head, my pulse pounding. Was he Mark? Or someone else? Lila napped in our room, the hospital's toll lingering. I couldn't sleep. My laptop opened to vasectomy failure rates. 1 in 2,000 after 2 years. 1,000,000 to 1 odds, especially since I pulled out. My mind spiraled. Was Lila lying? The stranger's stare, her deleted texts, pieces didn't fit. Her phone, charging, lit up. A voicemail notification. I hesitated, then played it, low volume. A man's voice, low, urgent. "Lila, we need to meet soon. Call me." My chest tight, constricted. Who was he? Mark? I deleted it, hating myself. At breakfast, Tom tried joking, "You're gonna be a dad, Jake." I faked a grin, but Lila's silence was heavy. Sarah pulled me aside. "Don't do this, Jake. She loves you." But the voicemail's echo drowned out her words. Flashback. Our first trip, a beach getaway. Lila's laugh in the waves, her trust in me absolute. Now I wasn't sure who she was. The stranger was nowhere at the hotel, but I felt his eyes. Was he waiting? For what? I wanted to shake Lila, demand answers, but fear stopped me. What if I didn't like what I heard? The hotel room felt like a pressure cooker, the strip's neon glow seeping through the curtains like a taunt. Lila sat on the bed, her hospital discharge papers crumpled beside her, her eyes red from crying or exhaustion. I couldn't tell. I paced, the doctor's words, 5 weeks pregnant, a blade in my gut. My vasectomy, 3 years old, was supposed to be foolproof, 1 in 2,000 odds of failure, and I pulled out besides, 1,000,000 to 1. Yet here we were, and Lila's silence screamed louder than her words. "Lila," I said, my voice low, "we need to talk about this." She looked up, her face a mask of fear and something else. Guilt. "Jake, I didn't cheat," she said, her voice cracking. "This baby's yours, I swear." Her hands twisted the blanket, knuckles white. I wanted to believe her, but the pieces didn't fit. Her phone buzzing all weekend, her quick swipes to hide texts. That stranger, tall, dark jacket, always watching, and now a baby. "My vasectomy," I said, stopping mid-step. "It's not supposed to fail, so tell me, Lila, how's this possible?" Her eyes flashed, hurt or anger. I couldn't read her. "I don't know, Jake. Maybe it's a miracle, maybe it's a fluke, but I didn't." She stopped, her gaze dropping to the floor. "You don't trust me." "It's not that simple," I snapped, hating the edge in my voice. "You've been weird all weekend. Your phone, those texts. And who's Mark, really?" Her head jerked up at his name, a flicker of panic crossing her face. "He's a co-worker," she said, too fast. "I told you, I ran into him at the casino before dinner. We talked, that's it." "Talked about what?" I pressed, stepping closer. "Why delete his messages? Why not tell me?" Her lips parted, but no answer came. Instead, she stood, grabbing her phone. "Because I knew you'd do this, Jake. Turn it into something it's not." Her voice trembled, but her eyes darted to the door, like she was expecting someone. Flashback. Last summer, Lila called me out for working late, her honesty raw but real. "If we don't talk, we break," she'd said, pulling us back from the edge. Now her words felt like a script rehearsed to cover something deeper. "We need a paternity test," I said, the words heavy. She nodded, tears spilling. "Fine, but it hurts, Jake." The air between us cracked, trust splintering like glass. "What do we do if it's not mine?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. She looked away, the strip's lights reflecting in her eyes. "I don't know." We left for the hotel bar to meet Tom and Sarah, the silence between us deafening. The bar was a haze of laughter and clinking glasses, but my eyes scanned the crowd. There, by the counter, the stranger in his dark jacket, his back to us. He leaned toward the bartender, his voice low but clear. "Room 304, you sure she's there?" My blood froze. That was our room. I started toward him, but Lila grabbed my arm. "Jake, don't," she whispered, her grip tight, her eyes wide with something like fear. I shook her off, weaving through the crowd, but he was gone, swallowed by the casino's chaos. The bartender frowned when I asked. "Guy was just checking on a guest. Said she was sick." My pulse hammered. Lila? Or someone else? Back at the table, Tom cracked a joke, but Sarah's eyes were on Lila, who stared at her drink, her fingers trembling. Later, back in our room, I locked the door, my heart still racing. Lila sat on the bed, silent, her phone face down. As I turned to speak, something slid under the door. A folded note scrawled in black ink. "We need to talk. Midnight, lobby. No signature." My stomach dropped. "Lila, what the hell is this?" I held it up, my voice shaking. She stared, her face paling. "I don't know," she said, but her voice was a whisper, her eyes fixed on the note like it was a bomb. I crumpled it, tossing it in the trash. "Is it Mark? Is he here?" She shook her head, tears falling. "No, Jake, I swear." But her denial felt hollow, and the stranger's face, his stare, his question about our room, loomed like a specter. Was he following her? Was she hiding something dangerous? The clock read 11 p.m. Midnight was an hour away, and I didn't know if I'd be waiting for answers or trouble. Monday night, the Strip was a neon inferno, its pulse matching my racing heart. The note from last night, "We need to talk." Midnight lobby, burned in my mind. I told Lila I needed air, but I was hunting. The stranger had slipped away too many times. I weaved through the casino, slots chiming, crowds blurring. There, dark jacket, by a row of machines. He leaned close to one, his hand moving fast like he was carving something. I crept closer, my breath shallow. He vanished into a throng of tourists, but the machine's screen flickered, a scratch in the metal. "She knows." My stomach dropped. "Lila?" I scanned the crowd, but he was gone, a ghost in the neon haze. Back in our room, Lila was awake, her eyes red. "Jake, I'm scared," she said, her voice raw. "I never wanted kids, but now I might." Her vulnerability hit me, but her Mark story, just a chat, old friends, felt thinner every time. "What's he want, Lila?" I asked, my voice low. She flinched. "Nothing, I told you." But her fingers twisted her necklace, a nervous habit from fights we'd survived. Flashback, my ex Claire, her lies unraveling in a single text. Lila wasn't her, but doubt was a poison. At 11:45 p.m., another note slid under our door. "You can't run." No signature, same black ink. Lila gasped, backing away. "Jake, I don't know what's happening." Her fear looked real, but her eyes darted to her phone. I grabbed my jacket. "I'm ending this. Midnight lobby bar." The bar was packed, the clock ticking past midnight. No stranger, no Mark, just drunks and dealers. I checked every corner, my heart pounding, but found nothing but a bartender wiping glasses. "You see a guy, dark jacket?" I asked. He shrugged. "Lots of guys like that." Back in our room, Lila was curled up, asleep, the note gone from the dresser. Did she hide it? The Strip's lights mocked me, and sleep never came. The quiet of our apartment was a stark contrast to Vegas's neon chaos, the memory of that weekend a jagged edge in my mind. Lila sat at the kitchen table, her coffee untouched, her eyes tracing the grain of the wood. We'd been home 2 days, but the weight of her pregnancy, 5 weeks, impossible, hung between us like a fog. The stranger's notes, his tampering with the hotel camera, the voicemail on Lila's phone. "We need to meet. It's urgent," still haunted me. Was it all in my head, or was she hiding something? We saw a urologist that morning, a no-nonsense woman with a clipboard and a calm stare. "Vasectomy failures are rare," she said, flipping through my file. "About 1 in 2,000 after 2 years, sometimes due to recanalization, tubes reconnecting. It happens." I nodded, my throat tight. 1,000,000 to 1 odds. Yet here we were. "We can test your semen to confirm," she offered, but I shook my head. The paternity test scheduled for next week would tell me what I needed. Lila squeezed my hand, her touch warm but tentative. Her silence in the car ride home felt like a wall. Back at the apartment, I called Caesar's, chasing answers about the stranger. The manager was brisk but helpful. "We had a staffer checking on a guest who'd been hospitalized," he said. "Tall guy, dark jacket. He got your room number wrong. 304 instead of 340. Meant to follow up post-discharge." My pulse slowed, the air lighter. "The notes. We need to talk. You can't run. Must have been misdelivered, meant for someone else." "The camera?" "A maintenance issue," he claimed. Relief hit, but it was brittle. The stranger wasn't a threat, but Lila's secrecy still gnawed. That night Lila cooked pasta, the kitchen filled with garlic and tension. "Jake," she started, stirring the sauce. "About Mark." My heart kicked up, the name a spark to my paranoia. "He was a fling, years ago, before you," she said, her voice steady but low. "We worked together at the hospital. He texted to catch up in Vegas, but it was nothing. I deleted them because I didn't want you to worry." I leaned against the counter, the stranger's shadow fading but not gone. "Why not just tell me?" I asked, softer than I felt. She set the spoon down, her eyes meeting mine. "Because you've been hurt before. I saw it in your eyes, the way you looked at my phone, at me. I didn't want to give you a reason to doubt." Her voice broke, and I saw her, really saw her, vulnerable, scared, not the liar my ex, Claire, had been. Flashback. Our first Christmas. Lila gifting me a sketchbook, her laugh filling our tiny apartment. She'd been my anchor, her honesty a lifeline. Now I was the one unmoored, chasing ghosts. "I'm sorry," I said, stepping closer. I let my head get away from me. She nodded, tears brimming. "I'm scared, Jake, this baby. I never planned for this." We talked, really talked, for the first time since Vegas. Her fear of motherhood, my fear of betrayal. The paternity test loomed, results weeks away, but we agreed to face it together. I pulled her close, her warmth grounding me. The stranger was gone, a misunderstanding, but my doubts weren't. Still, her hand in mine felt like a start. We ate dinner, the silence softer now, the future uncertain but shared. Weeks later I sit at our kitchen table, a notebook open, pen in hand, the Vegas chaos a fading scar. The paternity test results are still out there, a question mark hanging over us. Lila's in the next room, humming as she chops vegetables, the sound a quiet tether to hope. Vegas stripped us bare, her collapse, the pregnancy bombshell, my paranoia spiraling into a stranger's shadow and cryptic notes. I chased ghosts, saw betrayal where there was fear, and nearly lost what matters most. The stranger was a hotel worker, his notes a mix-up, his camera tampering a maintenance fluke. Mark, Lila's old fling, was just a guy reaching out, his texts harmless. My vasectomy's 1,000,000 to 1 failure rate, 1 in 2,000, the urologist said, still feels like a cosmic joke. But the real battle wasn't the stranger or the odds, it was inside me. Claire's affair left scars, and I painted Lila with her sins. I was wrong. Lila's fear in the hospital, her tears over dinner, she was as lost as I was. We talked raw and real about the baby, our future. We don't know what the test will say, but we're choosing each other. Trust isn't a fact, it's a leap. I'm leaping not because I'm sure, but because love's worth the risk. If I could advise myself, or anyone in my shoes, I'd say this: talk, even when it's hard. Sit her down, share your shock about the pregnancy, your vasectomy doubts, without accusing. Her reaction will tell you more than your fears. Get a paternity test, not to wound, but for clarity. Vasectomies fail, rare as it is. See a urologist to confirm. Numbers ground you. Reflect on your trust. If she's been honest, lean into that. If there's doubt, face it head-on but fair. Plan the future together. Parenting, adoption, whatever comes. Because you're a team. Fear's a liar. Don't let it write your story. Others might react differently. Some would confront, guns blazing, and lose everything. Others might bury their doubts, hoping for the best, only to fester. Most would seek answers, tests, talks, while weighing their love against their fear. Your path depends on what you value, what you trust. For me, it's Lila. Tonight we're cooking. Her knife slicing peppers, my hands kneading dough. She laughs, a sound that pulls me back to our first date, her eyes bright over cheap wine. The test results will come, and we'll face them. 1,000,000 to 1 or not, we're in this together. I set the table, her hand brushing mine, and for the first time in weeks, I breathe.